Gaming news today is all about PlayStation. We have an update on the PlayStation 6 Handheld, or the S, or is it a dock? What is it? I couldn't make sense of why PlayStation would do something that Xbox seemingly didn't fare very well with. I played the Lost Soul Aside demo. I will be playing Lost Soul Aside gameplay today. I did not think the demo was that great. Other people are enjoying it. I'll give you my feedback and my impressions, and then we'll check out the game to see if it feels any better than the experience I had with the day one patch. Ghost of Yotei has also gone gold. Not much to say there other than I'm really excited to get into the next Ghost game. Ghost of Tsushima is one of my all-time favorite games. I'm trying to work on a video, it's not necessarily a retrospective, but just sort of a look back, I guess it's a retrospective, about Ghost of Tsushima and sort of my thoughts on it. Trying to think through how I want to do that, and hopefully we can get that out before Yōtei comes out. Doing the best I can, and yes, you might be wondering, hey, did the show start at a different time today? We have brought back morning coffee. So if you are at a member plus or above, you can start every day with me in morning coffee. It's laid back. It starts the day. You support the show directly, and you get extra content. We're also going to be doing Green Room in the afternoons with the return of my producer, helping think through the show for the next day, and you guys can help shape that show. And maybe I'll open up morning coffee on Fridays to all members, just so you can get a little bit of a sample. I know we do lots of gifting here. I do lots of gifting. You guys do lots of gifting to hit those goals to unlock Friday night with my wife. But there's a lot to discuss. There's a lot of things going on. So if you guys are watching this later, hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And again, if you want to support directly, I'm a fan-funded operation. That's how I do this. People using their primes and their subs and all the things. That is how I'm able to do this full-time. So thank you to everybody who continues to support the channel in that way. And we hope you enjoy the return of morning coffee as well as Green Room. And I do have to thank some people already starting things off. Han shot first, and so did you. A 5-bomb to start the day. We already had a renewal in morning coffee, and then a single gift that comes in from Joker Quinn, taking us to 408. So we are already at 7-0. All quiet over there on purple, maybe starting and stopping scared everybody over there, but we are live on both platforms, and a little bit of a friendly contest between the platforms. And then if you guys unlock the goal this week, Madam and I will play Gears of War tonight. We've really been enjoying Revenge of the Savage Planet. Went back to it because they did add the performance mode, and we've been enjoying it. We were playing pretty late last night, but we'll play some Gears of War for you tonight. And you guys that have been supporting the music channel, the second album releases today. It's called No Escape. The first album is a concept album about everything that happened to me in 2020. It's called False Kingdom. I wrote all the lyrics. I've used AI to make the music, but all the lyrics are original to me. So you can use that music command or go look up The Faceless Forge on YouTube. So thank you for supporting in all those different ways. And Dan says, cheers to 4 years. Thank you so much for 4 years, Dan. And that gets us to 409. And make sure you guys are, as you kind of come in, hit the like button. Let's get to the conversation. So here's the thing with the PlayStation situation. I, yesterday, could not think of a reason why PlayStation would do a PlayStation 6S, like a weaker version of the PlayStation. The only plausible explanation I could come up with was, well, they're going to have the PS5 last longer for cross-gen, so they don't see that as a problem, right? That was the only explanation that I could come up with. And I got a lot of pushback, and I understood why people were giving me pushback. I told them, I said, listen, I get it. This seems like a huge mistake. Maybe it is a huge mistake. I mean, maybe they shouldn't do this. They could be misjudging what the market will be receptive to or what developers are able to do. I still think most of what we're going to get in new hardware is going to be driven by, ray tracing and upscaling, not necessarily just a raw power machine, okay? Now we're hearing that the PlayStation 6S is just the opinion of Moore's Law is dead. He thinks it's likely. He thinks it's something probable that they will do. There's actually no concrete evidence that they are doing it. I was told by somebody that I trust that there's absolutely no internal evidence that there's a two-tier system coming. I was also told that the handheld is not a PlayStation 6 handheld. People keep throwing that around. The handheld's going to come first. It's not going to be, and I believe Moore's Law has corrected that, but continuing to refer to it as like the PlayStation 6 handheld, I don't think that's what it's going to be referred to as. There it is. All right, we'll check it later in today to see how much it climbs, Eugene. Thank you so much, Sneaky Wolf, for the single gifted, and he bumps the line to 410, getting us a little bit closer to that weekly goal to unlock Friday nights. Thank you so much, my man Sneaky. They want to keep costs down. I really don't think they're gonna do it. I just don't think so. When I initially saw it, that's what I thought. I was like, there's no way they're doing this. And a 5 bomb comes in from Wired Rope. We are exactly 10 away from the next milestone. Whoever hits it gets it. If you guys make it hit 425, I owe your platform a member. Thank you so much, Wired Rope. He refers to it as that because it's the same generation of hardware. It's shorthand. He wouldn't do it. It's creating... Oh, he shouldn't do it. It's creating confusion. Right. Because he's thinking, oh, it's in that gen of hardware. It's shorthand. But as far as I know, the PlayStation handheld will come out before the PlayStation 6. So calling it a PlayStation 6 handheld doesn't make any sense. It'd be like calling the Portal the PlayStation 6 Portal. You know what I mean? That would be confusing. It's like, well, it came next. Oh, here, I'll pause them. My bad. I just pause them. I'm sorry. If those things pop up and interrupt us, let me know. I will pause them. Do me a favor and hit like. It'll help us out. It'll help us bounce back. I know people leave when that's going on. I am sorry. I've been trying to be better about that. I'm just trying to focus on the talk show, and that's pesky and up and out of the frame. PlayStation's never released 2 consoles with different power levels at launch of a generation. This is correct. And neither had Xbox, right? I think that's why people started to feel like, yo, what's going on? Why would PlayStation do this? That's why I was just like, this is the only thing I can come up with, is that they're going to extend cross-gen support of the PS5, and they don't care if they have a weaker device. That was the only thing I could come up with. Because I was like, well, maybe they're going to get slower adoption rate of PS6. They've had slow adoption rate of the PS5. They've got a lot of people that are hanging around on that PS4. How's Metal Gear on the Pro? I thought it was fine. I know there's issues, but I didn't have any major issues in the beginning. If there are issues later on, I didn't get very far. It's just not really my jam. It is a extremely dialogue heavy, cutscene heavy game, and the gameplay is ish. It's just not for me. And other people are like, it's a classic. What's the matter with you? You're a tourist. Listen, I'm enjoying Shinobi Art of Vengeance. I'm enjoying Revenge of the Savage Planet with my wife. We're going to check out Lost Soul Aside today. Borderlands is coming. Silk Song is next week. There's a lot of games that are my jam. That ain't it. That game is just not. It's not for me. I'm happy for fans of the franchise. I hope they have a blast. It's not my cup of tea. He's thinking Zen 6 cores and RDNA 5, and I believe that applies to both devices. One just has more of them than the other. Rumor mongering is not news, it's rumors. I totally support ignoring it if you prefer certainty. Somebody this morning was saying, because I like Tom from Moore's Law is Dead. He seems like a nice guy, so I wasn't upset. But when I saw the thing this morning, I was like, I don't think it was clear to people that you were. And then somebody, I think it was Wire Rope, said, "Oh no, he made it clear it was just his opinion." I'm like, that data sheet didn't look like an opinion. It looked like something was going on. A 10 bomb comes in from Alex and secures the 425. He takes it from Team YouTube and takes the lead. It's 15-19. I owe a member to Team Purple. Thank you so much, Alex, for doing that. You are the man. There you go. Did you enjoy Death Stranding opening more than Metal Gear Solid Delta opening? Death Stranding 1's original opening was really, really hard. If you remember, Tycho, I false started on Death Stranding 1. You know what I mean? Just pull up the vid unless you're waiting an hour. Pull up what vid? Does he have a new vid? Or you mean the old vid? Can you give me a timestamp, Rope? Moore's Law is Dead said numerous times that cost constraints kept being brought up in documents, specifically to keep price down and not to hit the price of the Pro. So what you're saying, Almighty, is he extrapolated from that they were going to likely do some kind of an S? He's usually pretty good at saying the following is speculation I'm not reporting, but it could have not been clear. Yeah, if I get the video and a timestamp, we can take a look at what he said. I've never felt like in the handful of times we've watched his content, I felt like he's like trying to like stoke fires and spread rumors. I feel like he's just kind of like, this is what we got, this is what's going on, here's what I think, Xbox most played games. So you're telling me Helldivers is now appearing on the most played games chart? I told you guys yesterday it would show up. Let's see. Where is it? Okay. All right. So it's down here hanging out with, hang on, that's my console cap card. All right, it's down here hanging out with Halo Infinite and Destiny 2. Now, it's early in the day Friday. We'll see if this climbs, because right now, if we look at the Steam charts, it's probably pretty similar, right? Like Helldivers Steam charts right now are 76,000, and they peaked at 128,000 yesterday, okay? So if Steam is a barometer of engagement, it drops and it's starting to climb, then this right here, we should see Helldivers start to climb. Being in this camp isn't terrible. Destiny 2 is obviously on a bit of a downturn, but it's got a ways to go if it wants to get to the top. Now, I don't think it's going to get above the top 10. This top 10 group is really, really hard to get above. If it can get in this ballpark with these games here, Apex and these others, I think that's a pretty good result. So we'll keep an eye on that throughout the day to see, how that game's doing over there. I was just playing Helldivers on the Xbox with Mike last night. Game's still fun as usual, but it has a lot of bugs, glitches, and crashes right now. Needs better optimization. It's having issues on. Were you playing on a Series X or an S? Halo Infinite's a dead game, and it's next to that. Not a big player count then. When you're down that far, yeah. The number of people playing Destiny on Xbox has always been not crazy strong. So again, like I said, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see if it doesn't climb. I still think internally their player count numbers only make sense if there was a big surge of players on Xbox. You were playing on the Series X. It had those issues since launch and still up to last night. What glitches and bugs are you talking about? I put 80 hours into Helldivers 2 on PlayStation 5, and I never feel like I had any crashes or anything. It actually crashed on Maddie Plays? Really? What does Goes Gold mean? It means it's shippable and on the disc. It's like, okay, game's in a shippable state, put it on the disc so they can start shipping the discs to the retailers. That doesn't mean there won't be a day one patch. The devs keep working on the game, and then once it's installed on your console, sometimes there's a day one patch, but that's what Goes Gold means. We're ready. We're ready to go. Does Lost Soul Aside provide HDR? I think it was in the settings. I think. No day one patch in these days? I don't know. A final complete version that can be pressed is ready. It's a reference to how albums were made back in the day. Yes. Jump in a Discord that still has Char installed and look at what you're saying. Yeah, what's the breakdown of the daily logins on Destiny? Would be my, I'd be curious. Going gold for a PlayStation game actually means it is complete. Servers have been shoddy the last few weeks. They knew this before they went on vacation. Just finished Lost Soul Aside demo. I did not like it. I'm glad that others liked it. It didn't feel good to me. The controls felt wonky. The camera felt kind of wonky. I don't know. I was none too thrilled with it. I'm hoping I feel very different today. D2 population 132,000. So that's a D2 population for the entirety of the day, 27th to the 28th on Xbox, Paul. 132,000. I had points where I couldn't buy the Halo Battle Pass. It was freezing at the end of matches to where you don't get credit, hard crashes, samples not showing up. Really? I never had that happen on PlayStation. I didn't even realize that was a thing. Guys, thanks for 100 likes, man. We're only 15 minutes into the broadcast, man. So many of you here already. Is 3 bags of coffee still the most efficient shipping? I don't know, Zoob. I think so. I think we're able to get the label at a price and get them in the bag size. Yeah, I think three bags of coffee. 3 is the best. I'm back on the Frickmas. If you guys have never ordered our coffee, it's a great way to support. We've got these really nice bags. This one's looking a little haggard. I should get a new bag in here. It's been knocked off the desk a couple of times. We have a light roast, a medium roast, and a dark roast. So go to reforgeroast.com, or you can use the command in chat. It reminds me of the Forspoken demo. They start you off with so many abilities. It's not stiff or cumbersome. There's a learning curve. I'm hoping that when I play through Lost Soul Aside from the beginning, they kind of ease me into the combat and it feels better. Because that boss fight felt terrible. I was like, I don't understand. I was getting the perfect dodges, and I was getting the perfect blocks, and I couldn't figure out why sometimes he would do like a counterattack and other times I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping it feels better playing through from the beginning. I'm hoping maybe the day one patch can fix things as well. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. So there's a training tutorial after you complete the prologue. I did a tutorial, a boss fight, and the adventure in the demo, and it all felt bad to me. None of it felt very good. Some people forget that Helldivers 2 is also on PS5, not just PC and Xbox. I'm not sure what are you driving at, Alex. I'm not sure what you mean. Fixed crash that occurred when multiple Helldivers equipped the MA5C assault rifle on the ship and the host leaves. Oh, really? It's a weird one. Oh, there's a Helldivers 2 patch, Jono's saying. It fixed an issue where the Halo War Bond could not be purchased, and if you'd unlocked all the War Bonds at the point of upgrading to Super Citizen Edition. Okay. You think PlayStation has a chance to compete with Nintendo with their new handheld? No. Well, when you say compete, I mean, I'm assuming what you mean is, like, could they catch up to it or rival it? I don't think so. I mean, the one PlayStation handheld sold like 80-something million or something like that. And I think the market's more receptive to a handheld. So I don't think they could catch it or rival it. I think it could do fine. You know, I think it could do fine. I think what it's going to come down to is price point and market receptibility. Like, if they can get it at the right price point and they can get it into the hands of people in Japan, Korea, and China, where that would be, I think, a more prevalent way of gaming. You know, PlayStation, you know, has a better foothold and saturation rate in Europe and America. So, you know, gaming on the go is a lot stronger outside of America. Like, gaming on the go is gaining popularity here, but a lot of people who game on the go here just play mobile games, just like throw away trash mobile games. They're not like gaming in like a serious way. And obviously a handheld lets you do that. I mean, the Switch saturation in Japan is ridiculous. It's like one in 4 people, every 4th person in Japan has a Switch of some kind. Now the population and density obviously in China could be even bigger for a handheld, as well as, like, this is why China Hero Project is something that PlayStation's focused on, because they want to grow in that market. And I don't know if handheld gaming or gaming on the go is as big as in China as it is in places like Korea and Japan. But, you know, I don't think you're going to be able to rival or catch the Switch. The Switch is just too strong right now. 150 plus million Switch 1s, and Switch 2 is on pace to catch it and potentially surpass it. So I think the Switch is somewhat untouchable. Now, could they be a great alternative in the market and pull good numbers? Yeah, maybe. How's the Portal if you're not in the same house? I've used it in a hotel, my brother's house, and my brother-in-law's house. In all three of those were different states. I never really had a terrible experience. The experience varied, and there was some latency, but like, I was playing the Portal in a hotel on hotel Wi-Fi, and I was able to win duels. Like, you can replay duels in Tsushima. I was able to win duels. So that means the response time's pretty good. Now, I wouldn't play through Sekiro or Lies of P or really even Tsushima on the Portal on hotel Wi-Fi, right? If I did, I would kind of know, okay, I'm probably going to have some input issues every now and again. I'm going to die every now and again, especially in a game like Sekiro. You could maybe eat around some input latency and some lag in Tsushima, but in a game like Sekiro or Lies of P, like, you could have an expert boss fight go upside down on you because of a little bit of latency. But by and large, I've had a good experience with it anytime I've used it outside of my house. So, guys, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about PlayStation, the PS5 or the PS6 Handheld. We're also been talking about Lost Soul Aside. I'll be diving into gameplay. And we've also been talking about, what was the other one? Oh, yeah, Ghost of Yotei went gold. I think it may come down to exclusives. Nintendo produces games are much better fit for gaming on the go. So unless PlayStation also starts producing more games like that, it might be tough to convince customers with better spec or price alone. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true, though. I mean, if you think about gaming on the go and the people that do it, if that's their central gaming hub, there could be people on a Switch playing games like Breath of the Wild or Bayonetta. I mean, I don't know. I mean, these are pretty popular titles. These are some high-selling titles for the Nintendo Switch. So I don't know if people are like, you know, oh, I only want to play like Mario Party or Mario Kart. Eugene used it on a cruise off the coast of Belize. Was a perfect no, but totally playable given the situation. PlayStation has a lot of third-party support. They do. PlayStation also has a lot of third-party support and a lot of third-party relationships. Guys, if you haven't done so yet, do me a favor and hit that like button. Try and get us to 200 likes. It'll really help us out. I think Sony is just trying to get a small piece of the handheld market. I don't think that they are trying to necessarily take it over at all. Just extra income from them. Yeah, I don't think they're trying to take over the handheld market either. I think they're trying to grow in markets where they may traditionally struggle, like Japan. I don't think they, you know, are probably super pleased with their saturation in their home country. So if we're gonna look at sort of their strategy across the board, and we're gonna say, hey, there is an effort to grow in China with the China Hero Project. There's an effort with the India Hero Project, right? The MENA Hero Project, however you're supposed to pronounce that one. I think I messed that one up. But also, I think the handheld could be an effort to grow in the, you know, in Asian regions where gaming on the go is more prevalent, where public transportation is better and people are, you know, sitting on trams, trains, you know, and pulling out a portable gaming device. So we'll see. I think the market's more receptive to handhelds. I don't know if handhelds are going to become as prevalent as PCs and consoles, though, historically. Look at that. Sony's now going to try and follow the Xbox strategy of consoles. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Windsor guy. What strategy in particular do you think they're following? And what are you basing your statements off of? I don't think we hear anything about GTA 6 until maybe the Game Awards. they might not do anything at the Game Awards. Rockstar kind of likes to do their own thing. They typically don't go and do stuff at events. You know what I mean? Imagine playing GTA 6 or Yōtei on the go. Yo, it's good Collide. If you're getting decent performance, then I don't see why not. I don't see why that would be a major issue. You know? If you're getting good performance, that's like playing, you know, Zelda on the go. Its success depends on how much Sony supports it, like what games it gets. They haven't always supported their side devices. I don't think this will be a side device. I think this device will be able to play PS5 games. I don't think this is going to be viewed as like, oh, they have to make games for it. I think you're going to play games that are already optimized at low power mode for PS5. That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be doing. I don't think you're going to be like, oh, it's not getting games. A handheld and going 2 SKUs. They're not doing 2 SKUs. That was something that Moore's Law speculated on. All of the data and all of the internal information has said that there are not 2 SKUs for the next PlayStation. And they're not following Xbox in the realm of handheld. They did handhelds before Xbox did. They also have the Portal, which is a remote play device, something they did before Xbox did. So I'm not really sure what you think they're following, but nothing that I just said is an indication of them following Xbox like at all. The 2-tier thing yesterday, I was bewildered by it. I was like, why would they do what hurt Xbox this gen? That doesn't seem to make any sense. We have data on that. Moore's Law is Dead literally said he was just speculating. It was like his guess of what they might do. A company doesn't literally have to tell you anything. Actions speak louder than words. Well, now you're speaking in a platitude that your claims have been falsified. So now that what you've said has turned out to not be true, you're just speaking in a platitude. You're not saying anything. 2 tiers didn't hurt Xbox. Parity hurt Xbox. Yeah, I would say yes and no, Zoob, because even if they weren't insisting on parity, you were still having developers try to get games to run on Series S well. Never say never. Another platitude. It can always come back. Okay. So, great. So you made a claim. It turns out the claim is not true, and now you're saying never say never. It's a very compelling argument. Just like games going everywhere, never say never. Okay. Again, just a very dizzying display of argumentation. Is very compelling. If the Series S had the same RAM and just cut down GPU, it would have been fine. Yeah, the issue was they didn't talk to developers. I don't think it was parity, Zoob. I think what hurt Xbox hardware this gen, they didn't talk to developers. They bottlenecked the box in a way that harmed development. I think it's why games have been so slow to come out. I think it's why first-party studios have been so slow over there. I think it's because of the S. I think it's why games kept coming out and they were clearly not ready. They weren't feature complete. I mean, I think that's clear, and I think it was the S. I don't know why people want to route for exclusives. For why would you ever want to make someone have to buy a box they will never want to buy? I never had that mindset. Well, because you're breaking it down into the most simplistic of terms. I don't give a frick what you have to buy. I don't care what you have to buy. I think exclusives are better for the market. I think exclusives are better for me as the consumer. I feel like I get better games. I feel like I get innovation and passion and something that taps into the hardware itself or gets the most out of the hardware. Like if you look at like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the fact that they got that to run on the Nintendo Switch is incredible. The fact that it looks the way that it does and it ran on the Switch is incredible. I don't think that would have happened if you were doing like a multi-plat release. I think it would have been a completely different game. It would have been optimized in completely different ways. Like, I feel like I get better games from exclusives, historically speaking, and I feel like people who are against exclusives posture this weird ideological position of like, oh, it's about the consumers and you want to make a consumer. I don't want to make a consumer do anything. I don't give a frick how you spend your money. I spend my money and I put it in ways, I spend it in areas where I feel like I get the most value. Right? It's like I subscribed to HBO because I saw value in The Last of Us TV show. Season 2 sucked, but Season 1 was remarkable, right? Like, that was exclusive. You know what I mean? Exclusives still come out bad. False. LOL. Once again, that's a compelling argument. What exclusives have quote unquote come out bad? I didn't say every single exclusive comes out perfect, so that you're straw manning. I was saying that I feel like I generally get better games. They're better. I feel like exclusives are doing more with the hardware. I feel like they're tapping into particular assets of the hardware, like the data controller in the PS5 was leveraged by Ratchet & Clank and Returnal in specific ways. I feel like what we got with cinematic lighting in Horizon Forbidden West and Burning Shores DLC, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could talk about Redfall and Starfield. Those were pretty bad exclusives. DK Bager coming in with a single gifted. Thank you so much. That's an Agent of Chaos. DK Bager returning to his roots, getting us to 426. The next milestone is 450. Thank you so much, boys. It's now 10 to 15 between the two platforms. Yeah, Ragnarok running 90 to 120. The reality is that consumers do value exclusives. Here's why that conversation goes nowhere. It only exists in the vacuum of Twitter. It only exists in the vacuum of, well, we lost the fight. Our brand doesn't do exclusives anymore, so exclusives are bad now. You weren't saying that 2 years ago. None of you were saying that 2 years ago. All you guys now that want to demonize exclusives, I don't know. You're a t-shirt of the week. You're just like, well, this is what we're supposed to say now. Like, when these companies are getting more and more bloat of spending crazy amounts of money, they need to get more money somewhere. It's all about money, money, money. I love that you think you know better than Nintendo and PlayStation, the two leaders. Like, I love that people think, well, you'll make more money, so they're going to do it. So, I always have. I never liked exclusives. I mean, I guess good for you. I don't care how you spend your money, and I don't care if you like or dislike exclusives. For me personally, I feel like I've gotten better games out of exclusives. We have 4 or 5 exclusives that just charted in the top 20. Yeah, they need that money, though, Brap. They need that money, Brap. You need that money. This person talking on Twitch, no, they're talking on YouTube. You probably blocked them, Eugene, because they're very intelligent. I love your shirt. Thank you. Don't forget how they told us everything from Bethesda and ABK was going to be exclusive going forward, and they cheered that PlayStation was dead. Yeah, the problem with this conversation is that you're not dealing with somebody with like a genuine conviction. You're dealing with a parrot who's just mouthing, their mouth is moving and there's no thought behind it. It's like, well, I'm just going to repeat what others have said. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's a bingo. You don't got to say that's a bingo. You just say bingo. Spider-Man 2 is still charting 2 years later. That's what I'm saying. I would love to jump on and discuss exclusives with you. Yeah, I mean, we want to have a day of the week where we do that, where we just like pull people into the... I'm supposed to have like a stage set up for that in the Discord eventually, where I can just like have somebody come into the Discord and just drag them up and just start chatting. Then why put Helldivers 2 over if that's the case that you're making? Don't need the money. Well, once again, you're straw manning. I didn't say they don't need the money. I was saying that exclusives can make money without being everywhere. Like, it's not an automatic equation. Like, if you put it everywhere, you'll make more money because the cost of production goes up. We literally just looked at this. So, Helldivers going to Xbox is a live service game. You're expanding the footprint of the game. Live service games live and die by the funnel, right? Live and die by the funnel. Now, recently, a much smaller game that's not nearly as complex or nearly as demanding. It is called Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, okay? Deep Rock Galactic Survivor is coming to console, all right? And I just want you to read what a much smaller developer said, okay? This is what he said about their game. We're excited for the opportunity to be part of Game Pass, and while we wish we could be going out on everything all at once, there is a lot of work in multi-platform. Not just development and compliance, but a lot of business development before that. Each new platform multiplies the complexity of the core project and slows feature development, if you can even be allowed on that platform. Okay, I want you to listen to what this developer is saying. This guy's not console warring, by the way. Deep Rock Galactic Survivor was made for PC first. So before your hackles get raised and you want to accuse the guy of being like a console shill or whatever other dumb brain dead stuff that people say, this guy right here is saying, look, every time you add a new platform, it multiplies the complexity of the core project and it slows feature development. So when you cheer for the death of exclusives, this is what you're cheering for. You're sawing off the branch that gamers stand on because your brand sucked this gen, right? Xbox has been relatively simple for us on Game Pass because we've worked with Microsoft, but even then it has taken a lot of sweat and hard work to get there. Other studios completely skip multi-platform because they can't get through to even start developing for console platforms. Do you understand? Like, when you're like, exclusives are bad and you make more money if you make the game for all platforms, you're saying something that isn't true. You're repeating nonsense from talking heads who just repeat what Microsoft has said. There's no business behind it, right? There's no business behind it. Creature says, pull him in. I don't even know how to do that. Can Brap even get into the stage? He should be able to if he's in the Discord. Let's be fair. What does the dev of 2 successful games know about developing successful games, honestly? In the end, not exclusives. If go somewhere else, you're not making any sense. And Terminal Stupidity with the 20 bomb on Twitch gets us to 446. We are super close to the next milestone, and YouTube is letting Twitch run away with it. It's 35-10. 35-10, boys. That's a big gift. That you guys are going to unlock tonight, and Madam and I are going to have to play Gears. Maybe I'll give you a sample of some new music as well. We got the new album. Releasing today on the Faceless Forge. If you guys want to support my music channel, type !music in the chat, and Friday nights are a great time sometimes to get those samples. Appreciate you guys so much. We're at 109 subscribers over there. Eugene says, so many forget the point of exclusives. Those games aren't made just to sell copies. Those games are made to sell the platform. By selling the platform, the stores get 30% of all games sold. That is where the real money is made. This is why Microsoft has stopped focusing on exclusives and hardware. They can't sell enough of their platform to force store sales to make 30%, so now they have to sell the games everywhere. Even if there's timed exclusives, games will go everywhere in the end. No, I don't think you're correct at all. I don't think you're going to see, like, Ghost of Yotei land on the Switch. You'll see it go to PC. But you're not going to see that. You're not going to see games like Yōtei or Wolverine or anything like that. You're not going to see those games go to, like, the Switch 2. Wired Rope says, devs are saying that they still don't even have Switch dev kits. Yeah, they can't even get Switch 2 dev kits. Like, again, your prediction about the future doesn't make any sense. Oh, and we got some people responding on YouTube. A 5 bomb from Team Mangrove and a 10 bomb from Barrett's Chosen, and they steal the milestone from Twitch. So that's 61, but then it's going to be 462. Thank you so much, Brian, for renewing 26 months. And the game is afoot as we now have, what is that, 26? It's 26-35. The competition between the two platforms is a little bit closer. Why does Yōtei go to PC? To get people hooked on the PlayStation exclusive so that they buy the PlayStation hardware platform. That's right. And another one comes in from Terminal Stupidity. Another 20 bomb. And he gets us to 482. But that's going to become 483 because Joker Quinn is coming in. Terminal Stupidity says, the day is mine. You will not win this contest. YouTube's going to need some heavy hitters to answer back. It's 55-27 as Twitch just secured the next milestone of 475. So I owe Twitch 1. I owe YouTube 1. Guys, I'm still gifting every 25. We're doing the thing. Whoever hits it gets it. Windsor Guy says, I'm just saying, let's say everything you say was a change. Like you say won't, and it did, and it refutes everything you said of stuff won't go every, then what? Okay, so you're putting words in my mouth. I never said that stuff will never go everywhere. I'm saying I don't think it will. If they figure out a way to put Yōtei on the Switch 2, I'll be blown away. I don't think technologically it's in the cards. I don't think you're going to see PlayStation task their porting companies with whittling down games like Yōtei to the Switch 2. I'm making a mathematical prediction of probability. I don't think they're going to do that, brother. I don't think games like Yōtei or Intergalactic or Wolverine, we know these devs like to push things and make things look incredible. I don't think they're going to task a porting company with taking that to the Switch. I just don't think so. PC? Yes. Yes. And here's the thing. I also have made mathematical probability predictions by saying I think future Xbox hardware are Windows gaming devices that will have Steam, Epic, and the Xbox Store on them, and I don't think PlayStation cares if people buy their game in those environments because it's just more people buying their content, and Xbox is shifting away from traditional console. They're shifting into Windows gaming devices, which is no longer even remotely a piece of competition for PlayStation. It's not even remotely a piece of competition. It's a completely different device. I think it's better to sell your stuff where the people are that won't ever care to buy your platform. And I think you're thinking too simplistically about it. I don't think these companies think the way that you think. It's why they're making tons of money and you're talking in a YouTube chat. Like these PlayStation and Nintendo have been insanely successful doing not anything that you're talking about. Like, how did they get to where they got? By listening to an armchair businessman in YouTube, or by sticking to the core principles of a business of video games that's been working for 20 to 30 years. The only company that's pivoted away from this is the company that absolutely and fundamentally lost the console fight. Like, again, there's no rhyme or reason to what you're saying. These companies are not posturing or signaling any of the things that you're saying. Now, they talk about growing the platform, yes, but when they talked about growing the platform, they were also talking about expanding their IP through TV shows and entertainment. They view platform growth not the same as the people that were like, oh, that means the games are going everywhere and they're becoming a publisher. The guy expanded on what he meant by platform, and it wasn't what people said he said. It was largely very misrepresented. A $20 super chat from Ortega. Good show, man. Tell me your take on Lost Soul aside. I did not like the demo. Joker Quinn, thank you for the single gifted. I did not like the demo. I'm going to be playing the game this afternoon to see what I think. I'm hoping that the main game feels better and eases you into the combat. I thought the demo was pretty rough. And an order of coffee comes in from Zuby. He gets 3 bags of dark roast. Thank you so much, Zuby. So, for instance, 30 million people that won't move over, you're going to not sell to possibly that many people times $70. You're not going to care to possibly make that money at all. Again, I think you're thinking too simplistically about this. So what you're doing is you're making the mistake of thinking that the money that it would cost to take the game to these other platforms, it would automatically result in return, when the guy from Deep Rock Galactic Survivor literally just said it slows feature production. It slows down feature production, and not only does it slow down feature production, it actually makes it more costly. So you're like, think about what you're saying, Windsor Guy. You're like, oh, the devs are spending so much money, the budgets are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. A great way to fix that is to spend more money. You're throwing gas on a fire to put it out. It's like, no, that's going to magnify the problem. That's better than $0, if not at all. It's like perfectly displaying your simplistic view of this. It's not just about generating more money. It's about profit, brother. It's about profit. Like, If I increase the cost of the product and the project and it takes longer to come to the market, it slows my feature development, so maybe the game's not as impressive, so that I can do what you're saying, I may end up making less money. You're thinking so simplistically about this. You're really not seeing the forest for the trees. You're like, oh, but more money is more money. Thank you so much. Behemoth comes in with the 5-bomb and gets us to a little bit more of a competition here. It's 55 to 33, and we are at 489. Thank you so much, Behemoth. Yoshida says it's like printing money. He said porting a game to another platform is like printing money. He was speaking particularly to porting a complete product to another platform. The cost of production compared to the cost of porting are not the same. This guy is talking about multi-platform releases. That is not the same. 6 months spent porting is 6 months not spent working towards the next big project. But that's why they have porting companies. Nix's shoulders the porting work. They shoulder the porting work. So when Nix's is shouldering the porting work, the dev is free to go and move on to the next project. I have not once debated against the wisdom of porting the games to PC. That's not what Windsor Guy is driving at. He's driving at parallel development, multi-platform. Games are going everywhere. And I'm like, I don't think that that's true. I don't think you're going to see games going everywhere. I don't think you're going to see PlayStation exclusives on the Nintendo Switch 2 unless they're older PS4 games. I don't think newer PS5 games are going to be going to the Switch 2. And a 10-bomb comes in from Assumed Parasite, and he gets us to 499. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We're one away from the goal, and the battle's heating up. It's 43 to 55. Come on, YouTube. Put the herd on Twitch. I don't see where to go in the Discord. Just speak in the help room, Brap, and somebody should be able to assign a role to you, and then you should be able to join my stage. I think the PS6 and Captain Fury is gifting a sub to Shockwave. And there it is! The milestone secured! 500. Now listen, stretch goal will be that Madam is in charge tonight when we're playing Gears of War, okay? You guys, we'll do a stretch goal. And also, if you guys hit stretch, maybe I'll give you a sneak peek and a sample of the next album, because we got a new album dropping today, and I know you guys like that. You like the behind-the-scenes secret peeks, sneak peeks. So let's see if we can rally another one. If not, that's fine. But we haven't had stretch goals in a while, okay? After watching and playing the demo, I'm waiting on your thoughts on Lost Soul Aside to see if it's a day one. Multi-platform strategy already affected a lot of companies. Activision had a lot more studios on COD to keep up with developing all versions of the game while maintaining yearly releases. Yeah, think about the scope of how expensive that is, Bartholomew, and how, like, if they have a reduction in revenue and sales, how dangerous that is for a game that is that monolithic. I should have been more clear. I wasn't saying necessarily at the same time. I was saying in the end going everywhere. Okay, that's a more fair position, Windsor Guy. Let me ask you a question. And there it is, the Agents of Chaos from WGC for 21 months. 21 months of support. Thank you. That's a long time. He says, I think you'll see larger studios try to put games everywhere as it gets set up better profit stream long term. The game eventually goes on sale. I don't necessarily think porting to PC has resulted in massive amounts of profit. I think it's resulted in more profit. But my question to you, Windsor Guy, is, do you honestly think going forward there aren't just three primary platforms, PC, PlayStation, and Nintendo? And if those are the three primary platforms, do you honestly think PlayStation's going to take their games that are pushing graphics, showing off the hardware, as Herman Hull said, pushing into PS5 Pro enhancements? Do you think they're going to go to the Switch 2? You honestly think they're going to go to the Switch 2? You gave him the Brono role? Okay, he should be able to get on the stage then. Yeah, there he is. Invite to speak. You can speak now, you son of a... I'm just kidding.
What's going on, Lono?
So he's modifying his position a little bit, Brap. And if you guys aren't aware, Brap's got a show. It's called Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. And, you know, he's saying he's not talking about parallel development. He's talking about games will just eventually go everywhere, like they'll just port them.
Yeah, I just, the thing with, I heard someone, I think before that particular comment in the live chat, you addressed it. He said, someone said, oh, well, there's 30 million Xbox users. That's $70. Well, that's an oversimplification of single player games, in particular, tentpole single player games, right? The PlayStation's marquee franchises. Those things hold tremendous value to them, right? I use the analogy, and you may have saw this, Lono, on Twitter, of the Air Jordan brand to Nike. And people were like, well, you can buy Air Jordans everywhere. That wasn't the point. The point was that there's value assigned to that brand be associated to Nike. Nike monetizes off that brand. They drive consumers to the ecosystem. Consumers then value the Nike brand. There's prestige behind the Nike brand because they're the only brand that produces Air Jordan. The same thing applies to these tentpole marquee franchises for Nintendo and for PlayStation. Even for Xbox, within their own ecosystem, they have exclusivity and product differentiators, in particular with Game Pass, right? I think we'd all agree with that. But the oversimplification, the thing that kind of is a bit of a head scratcher for me is that argument. Well, you put more games everywhere, and you're making more money. No, because especially for single player games, and they often conflate single player games, the economics of single player games versus live service games. The difference being that live service games offer a path for a platform owner to continue to monetize a consumer that may not be inside their ecosystem. That's why that makes sense. Single player games, you don't have that option of continuing to monetize a consumer that's off your platform in a different ecosystem. It's just a $70 transaction. It's a one-time transaction, and that's it. There's more value to Sony and Nintendo, and even to Xbox to an extent, for them to have somebody inside their ecosystem. And I always say this, Lona, I say Sony is very Apple-esque in a way. For anyone who owns an iPhone, Apple does this. They have their ecosystem. They do allow some things outside of the ecosystem, right? But they still look to get people inside that ecosystem, keep people inside the ecosystem, so they can further monetize those people inside the ecosystem. Whether it's selling the next iPhone, whether it's selling the earbuds and whatever other accessories that they're going to sell you or try to sell you. And the same applies for both Nintendo, Sony, and to an extent, Xbox. So people often glance over that for Sony and Nintendo, there's probably less value in that one-off sale, right? That $70 retail sale versus someone who's buying Spider-Man, as an example, for $70 inside their ecosystem. Well, now they can further monetize that individual, right? They can sell them headsets. They can sell them DLC. They can sell them. And now, not only that, but now they got this person in their storefront, the digital storefront, where they're making a 30% cut off of whatever that person buys now. So there's a lot of downstream impact and effects that people don't factor into the equation of why it may not make sense for them to bring some of their marquee tentpole franchises onto other platforms.
Yeah, they had a whole chart on this in their last earnings call showing what the average user spends, because they're looking at MAUs now and sort of saying, well, this is what everybody spends. And I was using my nephews as an example of people will cite the stat and say, well, people spend more time in the live service games than in single player games. And I'm like, well, that's not really a fair comparison. You're going to play Spider-Man once, but you might play Warzone for months at a time. And I said that my nephews, if you looked at their data, you'd say, oh, they didn't buy the PlayStation for the exclusive because they play Warzone more. That's incorrect. I think that's a non sequitur. They actually bought the PlayStation because they wanted to play Spider-Man 2. But now they're spending more time in the live service game that's ongoing, that their friends are in. And guess what? That's what PlayStation wants. They got them in with the catalyst of the exclusive, and now they're making money off of them in a live service game or in any other game that they buy, to the point that you just made, which is why even Detective Seed's one tweet about how he's hearing they're going to start porting games to PC faster, like in 6 months. That's one I see really hard coming to fruition, because the timeline there seems too short for quality. It seems too short for what you and I are talking about right now. It's like you want that thing to really flex its muscle. You also never can put it on PS Plus and flex it as a value there either if you put it on PC that fast. I don't see that sand shifting the way that people think it's going to shift, for a lot of the reasons that we just cited.
Yeah. No, I agree. And to detect what Detective Seed said, I've actually heard some things that are in contradiction to what he's saying, that 6 month window. I've heard that actually, in fact, that window is not changing at all for PlayStation. So I've heard, Seats is hearing one thing. I'm not saying Seats is wrong. I'm just saying I've heard something else from someone else who has, if you will, connections inside PlayStation, and he's saying no, that they're actually not changing the release cadence to PC. It's not going to be 6 months. It's going to stay the same. So, but it's interesting, Lono. Like and I guess what kind of I feel like this narrative is disingenuous. It's manufactured. I think you mentioned this earlier in your show that this exists. The game's everywhere. The console or exclusives don't matter. Narrative kind of exists in this vacuum on Twitter, and I believe that. If you look at how the market's reacted to exclusives, clearly the market values exclusives. We see in the July top 20 Circana numbers, I think 4 or 5 games were exclusive. Actually, one of them is a Xbox game that's exclusive. What's Grounded 2? And so, I mean, clearly the market values these things, right? Clearly people value exclusivity or product differentiators, and not just in gaming, but with other consumer products and other consumer goods. That's why the Nike analogy comes to mind. Apple comes to mind. People may argue, I use McDonald's as an analogy, the Big Mac. And people are like, oh, well, you don't have to spend $500 to get a Big Mac. And I get that argument. Like if someone said, look, Brap, I don't want to spend $500 to play Spider-Man 2 because it's $500. I don't fault anyone for that argument. The issue I have is saying, then taking that argument and springboarding into, this is why games need to be everywhere and exclusives don't matter. Yeah. It's very altruistic. I get it. But there's a downside, I think you mentioned earlier in the show, to games being everywhere, games becoming a commodity, or as Game Logic, who's on Brap, thank you for pulling up my YouTube channel there, Lono, I appreciate it. But as Game Logic says, games becoming pork bellies. Like, I don't know if I want that, Lono. I don't know if I want games to become a commodity or pork bellies, because if you look at what's happened in the mobile space where games are commodities, then the only differentiation isn't quality, it's price.
Yep.
If it's a race to the bottom in terms of pricing, companies still need to make money, which means now the economics and how they make money changes, which means they're going to figure out a way to monetize consumers, which means DLC, microtransactions, and what we see in mobile games, advertisements. I don't want that. Yeah.
We got somebody chiming in here too. Benevolent Icon renewed his membership 34 months on a VIP. Says PlayStation earns more than 70 for every copy of Yōtei they sell. Each PlayStation user who buys an exclusive typically also buys other games via the store. It's worth way more than a single $70 purchase. This is correct, and it's to what I was talking about with my nephews and Spider-Man. And you could say that's anecdotal, but I do think people really draw it's a correlated stat, and they think it's a causative stat. They're like, well, people play live service games more, so they don't buy these consoles for exclusives. I think if that were the case, then what Brap just said is what they'd be doing. They'd be just commoditizing everything. Everything would just be a commodity. It would just be live service. And we know PlayStation's trying to push into live service. At some level, it's been harmful to, they wasted a lot of time for Bend and Bluepoint. But they're not moving away from the tentpoles. They're spending more on big single-player narrative tentpole titles than they ever have historically. If you look at the one budget where they increase live service, the bar for single-player tentpole titles is higher than it has ever been. And if you guys are curious who I'm talking to, it's Brap. I had him up on the screen here, Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. I've been on his show a couple of times. We've been wanting to do something like this, have somebody hop on the mic and just kind of, shoot the bull. If you guys are enjoying it, hit like, do all the things, try to get us to 200 likes. But the other thing we were getting towards with what Brap was just saying is, they think it's altruistic. And my frustration with this whole it's pro-consumer. No, it's not. I actually think we have seen a more consistent anti-consumer evidence inside of the multiplats that come to market before they're ready. They're not feature complete. They're in shoddy condition. If you want to say that Xbox has been pro-consumer, they have been putting out roadmaps to keep you on Game Pass, and most of the games get delayed. When they finally come to market, they're not feature complete. They're not even at the standards we expect with 60 frames per second. I actually think that's anti-consumer. For the consumer to get a devalued product or a product that is not at industry standard, I think that's anti-consumer. Every exclusive that I have purchased, every first-party game I've purchased this gen on PlayStation, only 2 of them were disappointing in the realm of performance, Rise of the Ronin and Final Fantasy 16. Like, everything else I felt like was at quality. I'm like, that's pro-consumer, is a value proposition and value transmission. I don't feel like the value proposition and transmission at Xbox has worked out that well, and that to me is more anti-consumer. Ward Huff with 36 months. Brap, you go ahead on that one.
Yeah, no, I look, I understand the optics of it being consumer friendly, but again, I've been arguing this on my own show that in some ways many of these gamers are arguing against their own self-interest because there could be degradation of quality. And as I mentioned earlier, games becoming commodity now. There's not that incentive to differentiate based on quality. The differentiation then becomes price, and so now again the analogy of pork bellies. So I don't, and there's also there's consumer psychology behind this too. And by the way, Lona, I went down this whole rabbit hole in reading about ecosystems and the psychology behind consumer, but behind how consumers view value and the psychology behind that, right? Where consumers will often buy things, and in PlayStation as an example, right? The fact that they curate these high-end experiences. A consumer may buy a PlayStation 5 and then play a Ghost of Yotei or play a God of War or Spider-Man, and because the production values are so high and they're different from anything, from any other experience you can get from any other platform, the consumer in their mind may say, wow, this is worth the $500 I just spent, right? And that's the value proposition to the consumer. And that's why these product differentiators are valuable to consumers, because consumers will often justify their purchases based on those things, those differentiators that make them, for lack of a better word, feel good, right, about their purchase. I don't think any of us want to spend $500 and be like, oh, shit. Can I cuss, by the way? I'm sorry. I don't know if I can.
We try not to.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, oh shoot. I just wasted $500. No one likes that feeling, right? But when you spend $500, and we've all been there as gamers. I mean, I can go back to playing the first PlayStation and playing what was an exclusive at the time, Metal Gear Solid, and putting down the control. And like, oh my goodness, like what an experience, right? This was clearly worth the investment of the whatever $200 or so I played for the first PlayStation. So there's something to be said about that psychology behind consumer behavior that I think people overlook. And what's frustrating me is that this behavior and some of these thing and the behavior that consumers have and how they value different things and different product differentiators. A lot of the people that are speaking out against, this is part of my tweet the other day, that are speaking out against product differentiation or exclusives, or that games should be everywhere, often doing this while they're wearing their Nike Air Jordans or tweeting from their Apple iPhone. So they engage in these behaviors daily, but for whatever reason they treat gaming different than other consumer products. And consumer economics, or the laws of economics, if you will, don't change for gaming. They're the same as any other consumer product. Product differentiation. People are upset about not having exclusives on a certain platform. Well, supply and demand, right? You supply something that consumers want, that will increase demand, that will bring traffic to that platform. That is the purpose of product differentiators and exclusives. It happens everywhere. If you don't like it, fine. You don't have to agree with it. I get it. But that is just the reality of how consumer products operate. And I don't know why we look at it differently in gaming, or why we treat it differently than gaming. It makes zero sense to me. And that is why I find this whole argument a bit disingenuous.
Well, and one of the sort of platitudes I've seen thrown out about this, and it was just in chat a moment ago from Windsor Guy, he said, well, you would just buy the hardware according to its features. Well, the mistake I think that you're making is one of the things that PlayStation games do in particular is they show off the features of the hardware. They have a vested interest in saying this game's going to leverage PSSR, advanced ray tracing, DualSense, haptic feedback, adaptive control triggers. Like, they literally have a vested interest in saying, as Herman Hulse said, this game is meant to display and put on display the hardware. Like, and I've said this many times, there's a happy marriage when a studio is tasked with, we want this hardware to look great. Ratchet and Clank would be an example of this. Returnal, the Burning Shores DLC. These would be examples of that happy marriage. That benefits you as the consumer, and you're trying to bust that marriage up because you want to get 2 Christmas presents at Christmas. Like, I don't think you realize what you're doing. You're harming something that is actually good and helpful. And for them to be like, well, if games are going everywhere, I would just pick between the PlayStation 7, a PC, and the Switch 3. Well, I would pick between those according to features, but you would have this sort of diluted, washed out like economy of games where nobody is particularly highlighting the features of a given device unless they're paid to, like if PlayStation and Nintendo were like paying them to do it, which is right back to where we are kind of now, which is they own the studio, operational costs, and then they are tasked with show off this hardware, please, because we want people to get on this hardware, because that's where we make our money. We make our money on the storefront. We make our money on third party. We make our money on microtransactions.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting. We talk about innovation, right? How competition in the market breeds innovation. And to your point, Lou, like if there's no innovation or product differentiator for PlayStation, then why would they spend the R&D money to innovate on hardware, right? If their games are everywhere. I mean, what's the incentive for them to, invest in hardware that might improve the way games are developed, right? Or may create more immersive worlds. Like what's the incentive at that point? There is none. Because their games are everywhere, and that's the thing that I think people miss is that, if you look at the PlayStation 5, for example, right? The haptic feedback controls, that was new to the PlayStation. They innovated on that, but they also built software around hardware utilizing that. And I've made this argument for years. One of the things that I liked about the old Xbox, especially the original Xbox, when they announced the original Xbox, they innovated on including things like the internal hard drive, being able to rip your own soundtracks or music to the hard drive to use in-game soundtracks. And then they took that one step forward. They actually started designing games around the hardware feature sets, which was awesome, right? It created newer experiences that I've never had. And for me as a gamer, and I think for many gamers, that is the kind of innovation that we want to see. As much as gamers complain about, oh, this game is releasing in poor condition, it's not optimized well. Well, what do you think is going to happen when you have games that are just across multiple devices, right? The advantage that PC has is that you can brute force things if you have the ability to do so to get performance that's acceptable. You don't have that in the console space, and so exclusives will allow developers to really go to the metal and to develop and to kind of perfect the craft, right, of development for that particular hardware. So there's something to be said for that, and there's value in that. There's value in that for me, and I think there's value in that for a lot of gamers. Evident by the fact that we see exclusives charting, NPD. We see Nintendo still investing in exclusives. We see Sony, like you just said, they're doubling down. They're investing a lot of money into their first-party tentpole titles. They wouldn't be doing those things if they didn't think there was value in that.
Yeah, well, and if you look at the relationship between AMD and PlayStation with Mark Cerny, Project Amethyst, it resulted in better FSR4 for PCs. That algorithm's going to get kicked back to PSSR next year and make it even better. That makes it better for the developers. That makes it better for the games that we will be playing. Because somebody just said, number one, somebody asked me, well, can you explain why they port to PC? Herman Hulse has explained this many, many times. They see that as an additive market where somebody gets exposed to some of their best stuff and may buy a console in the future. PlayStation is boasting somewhere between a 20 and 30% new user acquisition on the console. People are buying PS5s who did not have PlayStations before. They're getting new users from somewhere. Just in our community alone, we're not enormous. We know people in this community that did it. They played God of War on PC or Horizon on PC, and they didn't want to wait on the sequel. And with the level of fidelity PlayStation's able to achieve on the Pro, a lot of people in PC land aren't even hitting that level of fidelity on their PC. If you look at the hardware reports from Steam, the majority of people playing PC games are playing games at a lower fidelity than what the Pro can offer, because the hardware reports make it very clear. The high-end cards are not the majority. Mid-level cards and down are the majority. That gap continues to shrink. If you walk into PlayStation 6 and the PlayStation 6 is hitting even higher levels of fidelity at an affordable plug-and-play cost, and you don't want to wait and you want to play Spider-Man 3, that's compelling. Now, the other question I was asked is, it sounds like you're, wanting exclusives to be tied to one box. Can you explain to me how that is pro-consumer? these companies are not interested in being pro-consumer. This is a complete mirage that has been sold to you by people that I don't think argue in good faith. There is nobody out there that's pro-consumer. That is a lie sold to you by people that have, I think, an agenda. I don't think there's a company out there that's pro-consumer. Amazon's not pro-consumer when they let me return things easily. That's not pro-consumer. That's pro-loyalty. They want me to stay loyal.
They want, they want to keep you in the ecosystem.
That's right. Xbox is not pro-consumer. They're pro-profit. All of the changes and pivots that Xbox has been doing is to increase profit. Now, they dress it up and they make it this altruistic, when everybody plays, everybody wins, games everywhere, console wars dead, exclusives are evil, this is better for gamers. Listen, you have got to be discerning here. You're trusting Microsoft. That would be like trusting Google or Amazon. These companies are not pro-consumer. They want your precious pennies, and they're figuring out ways to get it. The idea that like something is anti-consumer is a misnomer. That's not even a thing, because you can have like predatory practices, and you can have scams, and you can have things that harm the consumer. But the idea that a company needs to be pro-consumer, there's no such thing as a pro-consumer company. They're pro-profit. And if you have been convinced that a company's pro-consumer, then they did a really good job marketing to you.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, Leno. And I think that's part of the problem with the conversations, that people try to ascribe these human qualities or traits to these corporations, and they're at the end of the day in the business for money. The value proposition, though, as a consumer, though, when you're spending that kind of money, is in the experience. Are you getting the ROI out of that experience that you want? And that's that's PlayStation's value proposition to the consumer. Hey, we create this luxury device in the PlayStation 5. We have a PS5 Pro if you want that too, to give you access to these curated AAA cinematic experiences that you can't get anywhere else. That's the value prop to them. That is what they're trying to sell you. And they are consumers that are going to say, hey, I want that type of experience. And they're going to be consumers say, no, I don't want that type of experience. Neither one is right or wrong. That's just how the free market operates. But we shouldn't be ascribing to these corporations any notion or any idea that they're virtuous in the things that they're doing, because they're not. They want our dollars. They want us to make money, or us make money. They want to make money. They want to please it. They have a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders to increase revenue and profits, and that's it. And that's what they're focused on.
Well, and Trent has offered a retort here. He says, I don't believe either company is truly pro-consumer, but as a consumer, it's offering more value. Value is completely subjective, so I can only speak from my experience. I feel I have received an insanely high amount of value this gen from PlayStation compared to Xbox. I feel I got virtually no value from Xbox. I got a bill of goods. I got a console they did virtually nothing with in the Series X. I got roadmaps. Every year this gen, I've got roadmaps from Xbox that were basically mirages. They were just, look at all the pretty stuff coming, and then none of it showed up on time. Look at all the great games coming, and then they would ship not feature complete or at 30 FPS. Roadmaps were mirages to keep you on Game Pass. If you think that that's better for the consumer or that's more valuable, I would argue the opposite. I think it was absolutely anti-consumer or predatory or manipulative, whatever word you want to use. If you want to talk about anti-consumer, Microsoft was actively showing you things that were not even remotely close to ready or even close to the product. Like, look at what they did, as an example, with Fable and Perfect Dark. How many times did Fable show up, and how many times did we get told that was gameplay? And I kept saying, that's simulated gameplay, that's not gameplay, that's simulated gameplay. And then they finally show us pre-alpha footage of Fable. It looks nothing like the trailers, and the game's clearly a long ways away. And then Perfect Dark gets canceled. Like, they were using these games to paint this picture to you that wasn't real. To me, that is anti-consumer. That is not value. It's all fake. It's all phony. I got real tangible results from PlayStation this gen. I got a bunch of dangled carrots that were rotted from Xbox this gen. It's been incredibly disappointing. I struggle to see how people can't see it that way. I really struggle to see how you can't see how disappointing Xbox has been this gen.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like for me, and someone who's been engaged with the Xbox ecosystem for 20-something years now, I think what really and this goes back to that value prop, right? When I purchased the Series X, I had an expectation based on the marketing coming out of Xbox. This thing eats monsters for breakfast. And then as the years went by, and I didn't see games that were really taking advantage of the hardware, it was a bit disappointing for me. And I decided at that point that I'm not getting the ROI that I wanted from this $500 device. Now, I will say this. More recently, I've talked about it on this show, I have been actually impressed with the cadence of releases on Game Pass. They've gotten some really good games this year in Game Pass. And so that's one of the bright points, I think, at least for me, with them, is that we've gotten games like Clair Obscur Expedition 33, South of Midnight, I know I'm missing a bunch of Doom, Avowed, Ninja Gaiden's dropping in there in October, which I'm really excited about. I know I'm missing some other games, but I think in that regard, the releases have been really good this year with Game Pass. And I've gone back and forth with the value prop of Game Pass for me. But I only say that, and I only share that because I think that as consumers, we all have different expectations, wants, and needs. And when those needs are not met as consumers, I think that's fair to criticize, whoever the manufacturer or platform owners, say, hey, I'm not getting that ROI and the money that I put into this. And I think it's fair to criticize that. I think, unfortunately, when you do that and you talk about your individual use case, people get upset and they start calling you names and saying you're a console warrior. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that just each consumer has different individual wants and needs, and those needs are met just like we do with other consumer products. We speak out against those things, or we should at least.
Mm-hmm. There is, in this conversation, I think what happens is people sort of pass each other. So as I was talking about what Xbox did this gen and how little value I felt I got from them, people are like, well, Game Pass's value is insane. Yeah, this year, the value of Game Pass from 2020 to 2024, I would argue is almost non-existent, especially when you look at how Series X was not tapped into. They were shipping games that weren't feature complete. They were delaying games. They were shipping games at 30 FPS. They were shipping games in bad shape. Their cadence was all over the place. Yeah, 2025, 5 years into the gen, yes, the value of Game Pass this year is bonkers crazy. I didn't buy a Series X 5 years ago to wait for 5 years for a monsoon of value on Game Pass. I bought into something that was promoted as this next-gen console that was going to push the graphics and deliver great games, and that I didn't get that. I don't disagree with you. I mean, I didn't. That was part of my criticism with them. 4 or 5 years later, I'm getting at least that. I got rid of my Series X. I don't even have that anymore. If I'm engaged with Xbox now, it's on PC, but that was part of my frustration. I had a box just sitting there that I wasn't using, and then Game Pass 4 or 5 years later, actually longer than that because Game Pass is older than 4 or 5 years, but finally, at least for me, and if others feel differently, they feel like they got their value, that's fine. I'm not going to argue that. But at least for me, for BRAP as a consumer, I didn't really get that value from Game Pass until this year. And I hope they continue that. I hope they continue that cadence of good releases for me in Game Pass, because that's what's going to keep me engaged. I don't believe in maintaining a subscription long term if I'm not using it, So I've often looked at Game Pass on quarterly releases, and that's kind of how I evaluate whether or not I'm going to stick with the with the subscription service or unsubscribe and then come back when games release into that service that I want to play. Well, and yeah, there were games in 2024 that hit Game Pass, Paul, that were good, and a ton of those games I could get elsewhere. So none of that was like an exclusive value. So what you're arguing then is frugality. Well, Game Pass allows me to save money. I don't think frugality is the highest virtue of the consumer. I think consumers extracting the most value for themselves out of the market, that is what you're supposed to do. I don't feel like saving money is my highest virtue as the consumer. If that's your highest virtue, great. You guys can save money, buy less games, and use Game Pass. That's fantastic. I feel like I extracted way more value out of the market buying games on my PlayStation, buying a PS5 Pro. That's unique to me. I'm not you. I don't think frugality is like the be-all, end-all here. Well, if you're saving money and games are everywhere and you don't have to buy multiple consoles, that's it. That's the way to be a consumer. I'm like, that's not how I'm a consumer in a hobby. I don't treat it that way.
No, and that's a great point. I mean, every consumer has different wants, different needs. And so for this individual, like frugality or having access, low cost of entry is something they prioritize, but not everyone prioritizes that. You know, they just don't. I mean, people prioritize things differently.
Right, and if that to you is the highest virtue or value as the consumer, man, more power to you. But I don't feel like it's resulted in consistent. It's definitely not resulted in consistent quality, and I think that's the concern going forward. This was something that it wasn't Ecstasis, it was the other leaker. It wasn't Ecstasis or Kepler. I forget. It was the other guy. It was Sneaker. Sneaker SO said that the cadence is inevitably going to slow down because Microsoft's going to continue to cancel projects and close studios because their operational costs are seemingly just way too high. So sure, if they go out and broker great deals like Expedition 33 or Silksong hitting Game Pass, that's great for you. But I can still get those games, play those games, and enjoy those games. At that point, the only difference between me and you is I paid money for the game and you got it on a subservice. I'm looking beyond that. I'm looking at Yōtei, Death Stranding 2. I'm looking at Intergalactic. I'm looking at Saros. I'm looking at games that I know are coming from a company that has invested in this idea of we need high value first party exclusives or second party exclusives or third party. We need those high value exclusives because that adds value to what we offer. It's not just about saving money. I know people didn't like Jim Ryan, but when he talked about that virtuous cycle and why they don't put their big, huge titles on PS Plus day and date, you know, Strauss Zelnick said the same thing. Bobby Kotick said the same thing. I know in many people's minds, like, these guys are like evil, but they have a bigger view of it. They're like, listen, if you do that, you're devaluing that product. You're going to make less money. That in turn is not good for the consumer because guess what? People keep talking about the rising costs of development and these greedy companies. What do you think they're going to do if they can't subsidize continuing to put big, huge games on Game Pass? You'll see those studios go bye-bye. You'll see these big corporations do exactly what Microsoft has been doing, which is downsize, lay off, and cancel projects. You're getting less product in the market right now because of how Microsoft has approached gaming. You're not getting Perfect Dark. You're not getting, there's a handful of other studios that have closed and talent is now gone from that side. I don't have the list off the top of my head, but it was like the guys that were making Hi-Fi Rush. Thankfully, they got scooped up, but a lot of those people are just now gone. They're not even in the industry anymore, and you're getting less product as a result.
Hey, Leno, I don't mean to interrupt. I do need to jump off, but okay. I do appreciate you having me on. Thank you, and we got to get you back on BRAP again soon. It's been too long. I know I reached out before. The timing hasn't worked out, the scheduling, but I'd love to get you back on. And thank you again for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad. I'll put his channel up on here, guys, and we can link to it in the chat. Check out Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. I believe one of the reasons I haven't been able to go back on is like he does stuff on Wednesdays, and that's just impossible for me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Leno.
All right,
appreciate
thanks,
it. Take care. Yep. Bye.
There's a handful of shows I would like to do. And my issue, obviously, now too is soccer. Like every night of the week is spoken for, so I gotta get in while the getting's good during the day, because the soccer and church and all of that, I'm getting torn in 85 directions, and I miss going on those shows. It was always a fun time. And that's something that we want to continually do. Is if there's people that we like and trust, they want to hop on the show, hot mic. Like if Doc Dark stops by, people that I know are going to have maybe disagreement, but be respectful. I've got people that I trust. There's Purple Haze, there's Doc Dark, there's Brap. I know that they would come on and have good things to say. Had enough of Lono bashing Xbox. Well, here's the thing. Being critical of a brand because they felt like that you feel like they disappointed you, I think you have every right to do that. I would never say that you're bashing. I'd have Jez on. I like Jez Corden. I think he'd be great. I appreciate him. I know people have different opinions about everybody that I just listed, whether it's Doc Dark, Brap, Purple Haze, or Jez. I would love to have Jez on. I like Jez. But yeah, Doc's still around. I've not seen him in a while, but yeah, Doc's still around. But like, you're well within your right to do that. Like, I think casting everything is like, well, you're bashing Xbox. Homie, Xbox got me into console gaming, and they disappointed me this gen. I'm doing exactly what a consumer should do. I'm speaking with my mouth and my wallet. Do the same. Do the same. And if you feel you're extracting more value than me, yeah, Porter Rock, I'd love to have Porter Rock on. If you feel like you're getting a better deal than me, man, good. Good for you. That great. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm explaining why I landed where I landed. Like, oh, he means gaming grindhouse Jez. Well, yeah, that Jez as well. I was thinking of Jez Corden. That's I think been one of the most frustrating elements of this, is that every single thing I've done as a consumer and a content creator has been couched in this utter nonsense of a console war. And it's like, I came from full-time Destiny content creation, where the vast majority of my content was being critical of Destiny so it could improve. Right? That's what I did when I made Destiny content. I did the same thing when I saw my home turf console making decisions that I didn't agree with and doing things that I didn't agree with. That's what you should do as a consumer. I spoke with my mouth and my wallet. I now primarily game on PlayStation, Switch 2. I've got Switch 2s in the house, and that's and that we've got Mario Kart, we've got Donkey Kong. I know there's new titles coming like Metroid, and I want to get Kirby for my daughter. And then my wife and I have been playing a lot on PlayStation. We played and beat Returnal together. We're playing through Revenge of the Savage Planet. I rolled credits on a ridiculous, amount of games this year on my PlayStation. Why do you care if the company makes money or not? Because if they don't make money, they go away and I no longer get my hobby. Like, I'm not saying that you should be invested and like listen to earnings calls and like bean counting their profit, but I have said this very many times. I want the studios that make the games that I love, I want them to make buckets of cash, because then they're going to keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a restaurant that my wife and I love to go to. I'm always excited when it's full. Why? Because I like the dadgum restaurant. If I went in there and it was a ghost town every time we went there, I'd be worried. I'd be like, oh my gosh, what do you care if they make money? Because the food's good. Because the food's good. Like, what? I got to know the owner. I got to know the lead host, the guy that asks us, how many people in our party. I've gotten to know the wait staff. Why? I like the restaurant. King Thrash is somebody I'd like to see on the show. I'd love to have King Thrash on. He'd have to filter himself. He says that he can do that. Hey, somebody ordered some coffee. Sigs Sama ordered some coffee. Thank you so much for ordering a bag of the dark roast. If you guys have never ordered our coffee before, man, check it out. Go to reforgeroast.com. When Jaffe had the Ben guys that left on, that was great. Oh, yeah, I'd love to have Jaffe on. I liked that one show I did with Jaffe. It was so fun. Yeah. It was a blast. I was just laughing at the first part of what he said. Never heard someone say, how else would you spark my mouth? Just made me laugh a little. I'm not sure what you're talking about. When Microsoft lost Bungie, Xbox wasn't the same. If the food is not good, you still want me to support? No. I know sometimes we have a language barrier, Perfect Image, but were you listening to what I said? The entire beginning of that was, if they make a game that I enjoy, I want them to make buckets of cash. If they make a game and it sucks, I'm like, the market's going to do what the market's going to do. Like, if your game stinks, if your restaurant's food stinks, then you're probably not going to be in business for very long. When a restaurant dies, it's a sign of poor messaging and or service. They should go to a place for better business. You guys that intentionally misunderstand analogies are more tiring than a kid that needs told no 8 times in a row. How could you possibly be that thick to think that that's what I was saying? That I was saying support a bad restaurant? Like, why be willfully stupid? Why? Why, like, choose to be dumb? It was so clear what I was saying. I was like, if I enjoy something and I think it's awesome, I want it to do well, and I want it to make money. And you're like, herder, why would you support? What if the restaurant's food sucks? Herder, like, come on. Is your skull that thick? Did we find the missing link? Good golly. It was so clear what I was saying. I wasn't saying the restaurant sucks and the food's bad, but I support it so it stays in business. I was like, if I like the food, if I like the game, I want them to make tons of money because they're going to be around for a long time. I'm thrilled that Returnal did well enough for PlayStation to buy Housemarque, and now they're doing a spiritual sequel called Sorrows. I'm thrilled that Tsushima did so well we're getting a sequel. Good Lord. It's like you guys hear analogies and you're like, yeah, but what if the waitstaff steals from the cash register, Lono? And I'm like, what? What just happened? What just happened that the analogy was so clear? Everyone doesn't like your favorite food. That means poor business for them. Get it? Like, you are not even engaging with the conversation, King James. You're playing baseball on a soccer field and asking, well, how many outs there are. Listen to me. If I think this is a really good game and I like it, I want it to make tons of money. I not once indicated that if I like a game, everybody should buy it even if they think it sucks. You're injecting something into the commentary that's non-existent. I said, because somebody said, why, this is what sparked it. Javier Cotto said, why do you care if they make money? And it's like, I care if they make money because if they make something I enjoy, I want them to keep doing that. Why is that so hard to understand? It's not that, it's the analogy is not that deep. The analogy is so simple. It's like, if I think this is a great game, if I think this studio makes great stuff, yes, I want them to make money. I don't want them to give their product away for free. Like, if I went into my favorite restaurant and he was just giving away food for free and doing some sub-service thing where you could pay him $5 a month and eat all the food you want and drink all the drinks you want for free, I'd be like, I don't know if this is a good business strategy, man. I feel like y'all are going to be closing up shop in a month, man. The food's good. The service is good. I love what you guys do here, but this seems like you're really hurting your business here. Like, I kind of want you guys to make money so that you keep making the delicious food. That's exactly how you refer to other than PS5 gamers and what they value. This keeps the war going. And now you're just a liar. So just get the frick out of my chat, please. I never have said that. You're a liar. Get the frick out. And if that's too harsh, I don't care. I am sick of people like you. You inject something into the conversation I've never said. You're just a liar. Wear it. Just wear it. Change your name to King James 313 liar. I have never spoken that way about people other than PS5. I've never done that. I haven't. Go hang out on Twitter. That's where people like you belong. You're too small brained for an actual conversation, and all you do is falsely summarize what I say and what my positions are. So go lie on Twitter with the rest of them. That's all you're good for. You're not good for conversation. You're not good for disagreement. You're not good for discourse. You're not even good for frickin' gaming. You're just another liar. The industry is full of people like you. Some of them have dadgum podcasts and they get to interview people. You're just like them, and I'm sick of it. Not once today have I spoken ill of people who don't do what I do. I've said multiple times, listen, if you value that, man, extract value out of that. If you like that, more power to you. I'm speaking from my own personal experience. And you're like, well, it's time to lie since I lost the debate and since I'm too stupid to understand an analogy. Since I lost the debate and I'm a dummy, I'm just going to infer that Lono says mean things about the other side when that's just not true at all. I don't do that. I've never once said oh yeah, the people over there, they don't value what I value, and they're bad and they're dumb. I've never once done that. That's a falsehood. That's a fabrication. It's not even remotely true. Like, we were having a conversation about value and it being subjective and extracting that value from the market. And you misunderstand an analogy about how, like, well, if I like something, of course I want them to make money. Of course I want them to make money. I don't want them to be sitting here like penny pinching and barely getting by. I don't want them to be doing that. I want them to be doing very well, because then I'm going to get more games. I'm going to get more stuff. I love when I see a game that I love topping the sales charts. That's great. That's exciting. It's like, oh man, good for them. You see what I'm saying? Like, of course you care about those things. To turn that into some like, oh, you want people to pay for bad food or bad service or bad games. I never once said that. I never once indicated that. I made it very clear that it was like, if I enjoy something, I want to see it do well. What is this? Okay, hang on. Hang on. These people don't realize that they take a stance, or if they don't agree with me, then you must be my enemy. We can't just disagree, or it be okay, then we're different. That's what I mean. It's like, you can't just disagree with me. You got to be like this, well, this is what you say about the other side. It's like, no, I don't. I've never once done that. You're coming from Twitter. You're coming from Twitter. You think I've said all kinds of things that I haven't said. To be fair, Lono, I think you like it when your favorite restaurant is just full enough for you to wait for a table. Well, obviously, if I went... Okay. I'm not sure which one that is. He's asking about a restaurant we're going to meet at. By the way, love the shirt. Thank you. Yeah, obviously, if I went to a restaurant and I had to wait for 2 hours... that would be a bit of a bummer, right? I would have to adjust my schedule, or like maybe try to call ahead or something. But I wouldn't be like, oh, I hope they start to lose business or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't be like, well, I hope the place is empty so I can eat fast, right? Do you see? Like, this is what happens when you take something and you overvalue it. If you overvalued the speed with which you can get the food to a fault, if that's all that matters to you, if that's the highest value, you'd be like, well, I wish this place was empty so that I could walk in and get served right away, drinks right away, food right away. Well, you're valuing it to such a degree, it's harmful. Like this idea about like, oh, well, if I'm saving money, that's all that matters. Okay, like most of the value that was hitting Game Pass that was trotted out in the Discord a little while ago, a lot of those were third-party games. It was like, yeah, great, you saved money. That's not all I care about. That's not all I care about. If that's all I cared about, then I would be approaching gaming in a completely different way. I wouldn't be approaching it in a way of like, you know, I'm going to buy the new hardware, and I'm going to play the new games, I'm going to try out the new games. I wouldn't be doing that. I'd be like, well, let's figure out how to save as much money as possible. Hang on, let me... We've got to shift gears. We've got to shift gears because I need to play Lost Soul aside, and then I've got a meeting that I scheduled for today that I wasn't sure if it was going to happen or not, and it's now happening. So I need to schedule Lost Soul aside. Let's see here. Oh, I didn't save the thumbnails yet. Give me 1 second. I am really hoping that the beginning of Lost Soul Aside feels better than the demo. I was not vibing. I was not vibing at all with the demo. It just didn't feel good. It felt super awkward. Okay, let's do this. Okay. I'm going to set it for noon. We'll see what we can achieve in about 45 minutes of gameplay. We've got a little bit of time before I need to go to gameplay. We can chill for a little bit. I played through the demo. I synced with it a lot better. I managed to beat the pink boss. Still has a lot of not sure what I'm doing feel, but feels good. Went ahead and bought the game. The demo was good, just wish it released earlier. I did not like it. I thought the controls and the camera felt bad. We got some gifteds coming in. 2 gifteds coming in from Stonespire and 1 coming in from Joker Quinn. Stonespire's trying to set up that 20 bomb dunker. Thank you guys so much. That's the next milestone. I'm seeing a wide variety of reviews on Lost Soul. Some love it. Some have seemingly valid criticism. Some hate it. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Because I said a couple of things when I was playing through the demo. I was like, it feels like they assume I know more than I do. That's what it felt like. Right? It is not a Souls-like at all. No. It really did. It felt like you're supposed to know this stuff. It's got a 56% on Steam. I told people I didn't think it was going to fare very well. I was like, this just doesn't feel good. The voice work in the game is disappointing. Performance lack energy. The main character in particular. Played it, did not like it. It has a bunch of thick waifus, but overall the acting is horrible. I played it for a little over 2 hours and was disappointed. It's got cool combat, but feels rough around the edges. The story, the camera, the frame rate. I enjoy what I played in the game, but cannot recommend it until it gets a couple more patches to fix performance issues. I've been waiting for this game. The saddest part is the game seemed to be in a better and more promising game in 2016. The hits feel non-existent, like you're swinging a wooden sword at a lifeless mannequin. It feels like a gacha game. I completed the prologue, and in its current state, I can't recommend it. Performance, the frame rate's inconsistent. Movement and traversal. Running feels awful. With each step, the entire environment lurches forward, creating a constant lunging effect. It's disorienting, it's disengaging. Invisible walls everywhere. Default camera angles, story pacing, presentation. Combat tutorial lasts about 10 seconds. For an action-heavy game, your first taste of combat should be engaging and informative. Instead, the opening sequence ended before I even had a chance to press every button on my controller. I told you guys, I was like, I don't like this. Game doesn't feel good, man. I thought movement looked jerky because of frame drops. The walking actually just looks like that. Walking and the camera are bad. I try to tell y'all, I'm like, listen, I was looking forward to this game, but after I played that demo, I was like, I kept coming back to the same phrase. I was like, it just doesn't feel good. That's all from Steam, yeah. It just doesn't feel good. How's it faring in the PlayStation Store? It's already down to a 4.04. That's actually, this is now listen, this is not a bad score. For a PlayStation exclusive on its launch date, this is not a good sign. This will drop over time. This is going to end up in the 70s. That's for PlayStation, that's actually bad. When a game is banging on PlayStation, it's got like mid 80s to 90s. This is going to fall out of the 80s. I promise you it will. That's a bad start. That's a bad start. It's getting much better reviews from gamers I trust. I mean, if you guys trust the people telling you it's fun and you have a good time with it, I'm just here to tell you, I'd rather warn people. I'd rather give people the heads up that it doesn't feel so great instead of being like, oh, it's great, it's fun. Like, I did the same thing with Black Myth Wukong. And Lobo, you and I strongly disagree on Wukong. I was like, performance mode is cheeks on the PlayStation for Wukong. And, yeah. So I'd rather throw out caution to people than just be like, oh, it's great, go ahead, it's fun. Like, I did not like the feel. You're wrong unequivocally. I will just put the version of the game on Xbox on the table, and I'll accept your apology later, okay? They clearly they don't know what they're doing bringing the game to console. They are struggling with that engine and that game bringing it to console. Yeah. If gaming as a whole continues in the direction that Xbox is heading, do you think developers would find a way to still produce high-quality games across multiple platforms? I don't think anybody is following what Xbox is doing. I think people are hoping that happens because they can't cheer for their brand anymore. So all they can cheer for is the destruction of another. Like, they can no longer be a cheerleader for Xbox, so they're a cheerleader for the downfall and destruction of other brands. So I disagree with that assessment of Lost Soul aside, but that's why these discussions are great. We can disagree and so on. I would rather people be properly warned and then maybe they buy it anyway and have a great time, or at least they're properly warned and then they buy it and they're like, oh my gosh, like Lono was right. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Your criticisms of Wukong are valid. No, and I knew you were kidding around, Lobo. Yeah, I knew you were kidding around. You've been playing it all mornings, no problems. I didn't have any performance issues when I was playing it on the console. I just said that it felt terrible. I kept saying that I feel like I'm an NPC. That's what I kept saying. I was like, I feel like I'm an NPC. I feel like I'm an NPC because it felt like they were the main character and I was just kind of there trying to get close to them. That's what it felt like. I don't know. The way the game is built and the way that you move and the way that you engage in combat, I didn't feel like the main character. I felt like I was an NPC. I don't know. I'm coming from Final Fantasy 16 felt great. I rolled credits recently on First Berserker Kazan. That felt great. The combat in Shinobi Art of Vengeance feels great. I know that's a side-scroller, but still, like, I don't know. I've played some great games this year, and Final Fantasy 16's demo convinced me to get the game. It felt so good. You know? Yeah, FF16 had performance issues. Yeah. The demo, I'm talking about the combat. The demo made me be like, oh, this combat feels great. I was severely critical of FF16 when it launched. I didn't even go back to FF16 until I could play it on my Pro. Do you believe I was cheering for the downfall of PlayStation? You might not think of it in that way, but in large respect, I think people that were really, really big on Xbox saw Xbox go away that severely disappointed them, and now they're cheering for PlayStation to do the same thing. They're angry. The amount of comments that I get from people who are so clearly like, they're basically saying, well, my brand did this crap and I hate it, and I hope they do the same thing to you. That's just the whole emotion behind it is just vengeful. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you've been vengeful, Trent, but I think a lot of the people that approach this conversation, that's what they're hoping for. They're like, my brand did this thing that I don't like, you know, and, Your account's a year old, so I know what you're doing. That's what I think. I think that that's what's going on. They're very upset, and they hope that that everybody else is upset too. So that's how I've interpreted most of the comments. Okay. Let me get my controller. I'm gonna jump over. We're gonna jump over to gameplay a little bit earlier, because of the meeting that I have at 1. Think about it from this perspective. I just thought of this. Think about it from this perspective. Even the guys who act like they're all about PC and they're like PC master race, they're just like cheering for Xbox in disguise. Like that's their audience, right? Their audience is full of like anti-PlayStation fans, right? They know it's true, right? They hate that that's true because it's got them landlocked in narratives that are stupid. Think about what they cheer for. They look at people who enjoy PlayStation, who enjoy PlayStation exclusives, and they hope that those people are disappointed, and they hope that those people end up angry. I want you to really just take half a second and psychoanalyze that. Just take a second. Just psychoanalyze that just for like half a second. There are tons of people right now making content, yelling and screaming, calling me names on Twitter, coming to my comment section, coming here today, and that's what they want. They want people to be unhappy. Why do you think that is? Why? I don't care if somebody's unhappy with their brand of choice or their company of choice. I don't give a frick about that. I don't care. If you buy Nintendo and you feel great and you're happy, if you buy Xbox or you're on Game Pass and you feel happy, that's fine with me. Like, I'm not cheering for your unhappiness. Anybody who is cheering for, wanting, or celebrating others being either unhappy or dissatisfied with things, like, there's a reason that they want that. They want others to feel like them. Why would I be like, buy Returnal, buy Tsushima? Oh, it's great. Oh, I hope you guys buy Helldivers and have fun. Why would I do that? Because I'm having a good time and I want others to have a good time. I've never been like, oh, I hope you have a terrible time. I'm like, man, that stinks that game launched like that. Oh, I'm bummed that happened. Oh, that sucks that port was bad. I'm like, man, you PC guys get a lot of bad ports. You get the short end of the stick. I was absolutely visceral toward Jedi Survivor, and even today I'm like, it's still in terrible state on PC. Why would I do that? Well, because I want people to have a good time. I want people to get good value transmission because that's good for the market and it's good for the gamer, it's good for the consumer. The irony of the people claiming that they're pro-consumer as they actively push for, cheer for, and try to create unhappiness in others. You're not pro-consumer. You're a fraud. You can call me a fraud all you want. The real frauds are the people that posture altruistic and self-righteous about this as they cheer for and hope that people are unhappy and that people are dissatisfied and that people's brand does something that they don't want. They're not pro-consumer. They're pro-misery and hate and anger. That's what they're pro. They want you to have a bad time. That's what they're cheering for. They're not cheering for games to go everywhere because that's better for consumers in the market. No, they want that to happen because they know it would upset people and it would be disappointing and then it would hurt the value of the games. That's what they want. They're not cheering for anything that's pro-consumer. They don't give a frick about the consumer. They don't care. They want you angry. That's what they want. People crapping on Lono for not celebrating bad PlayStation ports is actually adorable. Wait, people were crapping on me for that? I was angry about the, I was angry about that. I couldn't believe what they did with The Last of Us Part 1 and what they did with Spider-Man 2. I was freaking ticked off. I was like, what the heck are y'all doing? Why would you do that to your product? Okay. That's pro-consumer. You want to talk about pro-consumer? I take up for the consumer regardless of where they play. If a game gets ported and it's bad, if the consumer gets misled, if the consumer gets sold something that doesn't deliver, like, everything I've ever said about Xbox has been more pro-consumer than the friggin' shills that defend them at every turn and act like everything they do is a brick of gold they crapped out. Like, come on. It's more pro-consumer to take up for people and say, hey, what you did was bad. What you did wasn't good. What you did, like, delivered, you know, low quality to people. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's more pro-consumer than the nonsense and drivel takes I've seen on this topic ever since it even started. You're not pro-consumer. You're pro-marketing. All right, hang on. I got to get this thing turned on. I got to get this game booted up. When they argue that exclusives shouldn't be a thing, while PC probably has the biggest amount of exclusives. Yeah, listen, they'll never be consistent. You'll never see any of those people having a go at the guys that made Deep Rock Galactic Survivor and being like, I can't believe you were so anti-consumer and only made the game for PC and you're only just now bringing it to Xbox. Even though you explained how multi-plat development makes things harder and more difficult and more expensive and actually slows down feature creation, we'll just ignore all of that. Like, come on. Like, they're never going to be consistent. They only do it because they don't like a particular brand. They don't do it consistently. Again, if you were pro-consumer, you wouldn't be doing that. Yeah, I want Dodge to be on that bumper. Apply settings. Camera. Whoops. We got to invert Y. Graphics performance pro mode. Okay. Let me get the music. All right, you guys on Twitch don't have to do anything, but you guys on YouTube, we're going to be shifting gears. Do me a favor and go crazy with the likes. Go crazy with the, if you guys want to try to hit the stretch goal and the gifteds, we'll do a whole segment tonight where Madam's in charge in gears. I don't get to call any of the shots, and maybe some more music as well. All right? Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you're watching this later, I'm diving in brand new to Lost Soul Aside gameplay. I tried the Lost Soul Aside demo. I was not a fan. I didn't think the controls felt that great. I didn't have any major performance issues. It's not doing very well on Steam. The score is pretty bad, and people are citing both performance issues as well as some of the things that I cited with camera controls and the game just not feeling very good. The score is actively dropping on PlayStation as well. Usually launch title exclusives on PlayStation are in like the mid-80s to mid-90s. It's already about to slip out of the 80s on score, so just be fair warned. I'm hoping that the beginning of the game feels better. I'm going to end the previous stream and bring folks over with Redirect. We did a talk show this morning. We had Brap on, and I'm going to bring you guys over with Redirect, and hopefully you guys can enjoy this gameplay.